This is an absolute gut punch for the Boston Bruins, as recent reports have revealed why Rick Tocchet chose not to go to the Boston Bruins. We need to talk about this and go over why it may be difficult to find more coaches. We also need to talk about Brad Marchand. The trade is finalized for now with the Florida Panthers, so we need to be talking about that and what this will mean for the Bruins going forward. We have a lot of news to talk about here today, ladies and gentlemen. Very quickly, before we jump into this video, we're on the road to 7K, and we know that just over 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot for all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in that right spot. Hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins, but like I said, we need to start off here with this report coming from RG and Rick Tocchet, revealing why he was not the Bruins head coach and why he did not consider them as much as people may think. And starting off here with this quote, Tocchet avoided joining the Bruins thanks to some uncertainties within their front office. Most of the concern was centered around Bruins general manager Don Sweeney entering the final year of his contract and his future in Boston not being guaranteed. Now, this is not it. This is not just it, I should say. There are more concerning factors here, which are also going to impact what the rest of the field looks like for the Boston Bruins in their coaching search. We do have some candidates right now that are above options in the other terms of things, but when it comes down to it, there's a lot of concern surrounding Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, and the front office of this Boston Bruins team and what this head coach is going to feel like. Because we know the Boston Bruins have had quite the coaching carousel over the past few seasons, and that causes a lot of concern for coaches not having the certainty of fulfilling that role and filling out their contract with this team. And I did want to pull up as well, when we go back to this RG Media quote, we have another one here. His concern was that Boston was the GM, his concern with Boston was that the GM may have 1 to 2 years left. He was concerned for two reasons, a different source said to RG, Sweeney's status and Sweeney's track record with his head coaches. Now, this puts us in a bit of a spot now where we have to think about how much is this affecting other coaching decisions coming back to the Boston Bruins, because I feel like we've missed out on a lot already. And, Mike Sullivan, that was almost a guarantee to the New York Rangers. The Bruins were there, but it didn't seem like that went anywhere. Rick Tocchet, another top candidate, ultimately ended up choosing to go to Philly, and now we're seeing this come out, that it's because of Don Sweeney, it's because of this front office, and that's going to be a lot of concern when it comes down to the head coaching, especially for experienced head coaches, because we know that people like that job security, and if you're an experienced veteran coach in the NHL and your job is not secured, why even go there in the first place if you don't know you're going to be filling out that role completely? When we go and look at the Bruins coaching history, you see over the past few seasons, Claude Julien, Bruce Cassidy, Jim Montgomery, all fired. And now we're stuck with Joe Sacco. I shouldn't say stuck with Joe Sacco. He's a great coach. Just a different position, or a difficult position for him to come into last season. But him as a head coach was more of an intern, but still on the candidate list to be able to become a head coach. And as we see here, Marco Sturm, Misha Donskov, Mark Savard, Joe Sacco, and Jay Leach. Currently, what we're looking at right now, I would say, is top candidates. There are many, many more, which I could put on this list and go forever. But we got to kind of narrow it down to a few that are real possibilities. I would say as well, Joe Sacco, Jay Leach, having been in this roster, in this organization for the last season and a few years prior, they know what's going on. But you had the Mark Savard, who is now out of the playoffs from the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to see more from him, maybe an interview there from Don Sweeney, as he said. They didn't want to interview any possible candidates while they were still in the playoffs. So that makes sense. Mark Savard now can be interviewed. Misha Donskov still with the Dallas Stars, assistant coach for them. We're expecting at least some sort of interview afterwards, whether that is after the Stanley Cup Finals or whatnot. And Marco Sturm, Ontario Reign head coach, I think is probably our top candidate right now, at least for me. I think he's going to bring a lot to the table in terms of being able to turn this team around pretty quickly and ultimately get to where we want to be back in a reasonable amount of time. But I want to pull up this as well, because these are the coaching candidates that we're having right now and who is still open. So the Bruins, Blackhawks, Seattle Kraken, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. I feel like there could be a few difficult situations here where some coaches may want to go to Chicago, want to have a younger system. Some may want to go to Pittsburgh, coach Sidney Crosby, coach this older style team. Us and the Kraken, kind of in that middle ground of, we're not there right now, but it's only a step away. So it will be interesting to see what coaching candidate has what mindset coming into this and how it will turn out to be and how it will play out for the Bruins in their head coaching search when it comes down to 4 other teams also looking for coaches. And as you see, back on this list, we have more than 4 coaches here. So I think either way with any of these, we'd be fine, but we want to see some specific answers and, fixes for this team at a quicker date than what we what we would normally see if there was no changes made. But with all of this coming down as well, another change for the Boston Bruins means that they are in the right spot. Things are going well, and that is the trade for Brad Marchand is now, I would say officially complete, because we don't know what's going to happen with this pick. But as you see, the the conditional pick for Brad Marchand was a second-round pick with a contract retention of 50% for Brad Marchand heading to Florida. And the contract conditional options were they play half of Florida's games. And that is now officially done in the second round. They beat the Maple Leafs in 7. And they will be moving on to the conference finals. So that means the Bruins now get this first-round pick in 2027. And looking to add to this once again, we now have first and 2 seconds this year, and the next 2 seasons, 2 first and a second. And the Bruins are in a very good spot when it comes to picks. We don't normally see the Bruins have very many picks, so this gives them a lot of freedom to do with some things here. Now we have the ability to go out, make a few trades with these picks if we want to. What I'm seeing a lot of people saying this year, and I completely agree with, is you make the 7th round pick the 7th overall pick, here in this season. You make that pick. You don't know when you're going to get back into this territory again. You're going to have good players there, no matter what. And then next year, 2026, 2 first-round picks. 2027, 2 first-round picks. And when it comes down to these drafts in specific, those first-round picks are going to be very valuable, because we look at the players that are available. We look at these next 2 drafts. Guys like Gavin McKenna, there's some names here that are generational talents. And if the Bruins were to make one of these trades or get lucky in the draft lottery from another team's pick, or ultimately end up being bad again next season, they are going to be in a phenomenal spot when it comes down to who to be able to pick in what area. Now, when we go as well here, look at the 2027 draft, which is, of course, the pick that the Florida Panthers gave us. Landon Dupont is the highlight here. Defenseman out of Everett, 60 points in 64 games, as I believe right now a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, something along the lines of that. And that's a crazy number already, so early and so young in his career for a defenseman who is going to be very similar to some of the top talent we see right now in defensemen in the NHL. And I'm very excited to see how this really plays into it. And right now, at least what we're seeing is Landon Dupont, Alexei Joseph, the 2 real top talents in this draft. And, more will emerge. There's still just about 3 seasons, 3 summers until we get to this draft. And that's going to be a lot of development for a lot of these younger players. And we're going to see some names really emerge here over the next few seasons. And I do recommend as well, for those who are trying to get into minor hockey or junior hockey and really trying to watch this evolve into a Boston Bruins kind of idea and who we're going to take and if these picks will be made by the Bruins, this is going to be a good look here. This draft is going to be one that you're going to want to watch. And another little bonus thing I think could be a sneaky option here with the Boston Bruins is Florida Panthers. Very, very good right now. There's no surprise by that, acquiring Brad Marchand, going back, maybe a back-to-back Stanley Cup in 3 years' time, 2 years' time, whatever you want to call it. The Bruins may have this big boost in draft capital if the Florida Panthers do end up kind of going into a skid and choosing to rebuild. The goal is to get a Stanley Cup. They've done so, and if they go back-to-back this year, they may choose to make some changes. Of course, you got to go for the three-peat until you lose, and if that happens, we may see a Florida team maybe try and, get some better picks and whatnot, and that could be a good idea for the Boston Bruins when it comes down to if they have their 2027 first-round pick, which could be a Landon Dupont. So let me know what you think about all of this news here. We had a lot of stuff to talk about over this weekend. It was gone out of town, so we have a lot of stuff coming throughout this week, and you won't want to miss it. But like I said, that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button. We have a lot of content coming, so if you haven't already and you're part of that percentage not subscribed, be sure to do so, and it is free. You can unsubscribe whenever, but that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.